All right, guys, we are back. We are up. Waiting for a couple more people to join. I see you drumming for life. What's up with you? Um, all right, let's get started. Hope everyone had a great weekend. It was a pretty good weekend of boxing. I was able to at least do a review of the majority of the fights very, very early in the morning this morning. All right. I hope you guys was able to check that out. I just did a review of the Bivol fight with Zerto Ramirez. All right. Um, Before we get started and go into the topics of tonight, and I'm just trying to stay as active as possible for you guys. All right. I know it's kind of late. I know a lot of people are probably not going to be on tonight, but I'm just trying to stay as active. There's a lot of news that's just popping out, flying out, fights that are getting announced, which is good for the sport. So I'm just trying to keep you guys updated with what's happening in the sport. But before we get started, I just want to send prayers, big prayers to Aidos Newly. All right. Sorry if I butchered the name. I know I was having some trouble saying it yesterday. All right. But Aidos Newly was stopped by David Morrell Jr. yesterday on the Showtime card. Okay. Uh it was a pretty brutal stoppage. You can tell by when he was stopped, and even before he was stopped, he was taking a lot of punishment from Morrell Jr. I mean, he just, at the end of the day, uh, he was a step up from Morrell Jr., like I stated before the fight. And he was a good boxer. He was undefeated at the time. He had a good KO ratio, and he showed us how durable and how tough he was. Okay. Um, but he, according to reports, I've seen it on Boxing Scene. He is in medically induced coma officially. All right. There was some sources being thrown around on social media for the past few hours, and it's official that he is in a coma. Okay. I remember watching the 12th round. I remember him getting dropped. And I remember when he tried to get up, he was still very, 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 very off balance. And Morrell Jr. actually helped him get to his corner and sat him down on his bench, or his stool. I'm sorry. Listen, once when these happen, right? Whether it's someone that gets, an extreme injury like this one, or if someone actually dies in the ring, everyone jumps out and say what should have been done. It should have been stopped sooner and stuff like that. Um, that's the part of boxing that makes it so dangerous. I mean, there are certain fights where fighters have died and they didn't appear to receive as much punishment. And then there's fighters where they get viciously knocked out and they're able to get up and walk out of the ring, and continue fighting. I seriously doubt that your bro Sanuli is going to fight anymore after last night. Okay. Even if he is to recover. And I hope he recovers. I really hope that he recovers, like fully recovers from this disaster of what happened. It's part of the sport. It's the sport that we love, and this what we're gonna keep getting them. I think the one thing that I've said in plenty of videos over the years is that, and I'm not even talking about deaths in the ring. I'm just talking about vicious knockouts where it takes a while for the fighter to get back on his feet. I just wish they had the EMTs right there ringside on these events. I don't know how that works. I know that they go to the ER. I know that they go to the hospital after the fight, but I wish that they were standing by right next to the ring, or like very, very close to the ring, if not next to the ring, but they should be somewhere where, if a fighter needs to get rushed to the hospital, they can be right there. I just think sometimes, I know they have like oxygen ringside, I know they have a doctor. I just feel like they should have the EMTs there right away so they could get rushed to the hospital if they have like some devastating knockout. Sometimes it's not even the punishment they receive, but sometimes it's the way they land when they fall. So, my prayers go out to Aidos, your boss and Nuli. And I just, at this point, it's not even about his career as a boxer. It's about him fully recovering. Hopefully he fully recovers from this, and, and he could just be, with his family, and he continue living his life. That's the most important thing to me right now. As far as boxing, I just hope that when it comes to David Morrell Jr., I hope this doesn't have too bad of an effect on him and him moving forward in his career. He's very, very young. He's still undefeated. This can have a mental effect on you moving forward, pulling back on your punches because you don't want to actually hurt a fighter to that extent. Yes, you want to show out, you want to knock out your opponent, you want to be able to stop him and stuff, but you don't want this to happen. I don't think anyone wants it to happen, even for the fighters that say that they want to, kill someone in the ring or badly injure someone in the ring. You don't want this to happen. I don't think anyone really wants this to happen. All right. But I'm not going to go into what should have been done, because there's fighters that take way more damage that's able to walk away from that fight and still have a great career, but he did look bad. He did look bad. And I think that was the corner's responsibility, if anything, not so much Tony Weeks here. I think it might have been, it could have been stopped a little earlier. I think the corner could have definitely thrown in the towel, but it's just it's a tough thing to call. I think some of them are blatant. I mentioned recently about Josue Vargas, the one that was embarrassed by Jose Zepeda. He went into his next fight after losing, or two fights after losing to Zepeda. And I thought that was a fight that went a lot longer than it should. He's okay. He's fine. He was stopped. But when I watched that, I felt like it went way too long, and I was like, when is the ref going to jump in and stop before this kid is going to be, something happens to this kid? And he's fine, but again, it's really hard to call with these fights. All right. I don't think you can never really be perfect when it comes to the health of these fighters, and that goes with a lot of other sports as well. All right. Anyway, all right. So let's move forward. All right, let's talk some boxing. Real quick, someone asked me what my thoughts on Andre Dirrell's performance last night. I actually meant to speak on it last night when I did that video, but it was really late. It was like 2 a.m, and I forgot to talk about it. I did see the fight. I didn't see the entire fight, but I saw the majority of the rounds, and Andre Dirrell looked very, very good against Yunieskis Gonzalez. At this point, Gonzalez has given us some good fights, especially the John Pascal fight, the Zerto Ramirez fight. He's given us some good fights, but he's starting to look like he's not as durable, and I think he should be on his way. He should really be thinking about retirement at this point, because he's just not durable. And Dirrell hurt him several times during this fight. I remember seeing the second to last round where Dirrell hurt him, and it was a delayed reaction. And Gonzalez had trouble walking back to his corner, and then the ref stepped in and gave him an 8 count while Dirrell was already on his stool getting treated by his corner. I saw that it was so random. I've never seen it done that way. But Dirrell was giving him beating, and I guess he leaned towards the ropes, and I guess that was the reason why the referee gave him a standing 8 count, because he was kind of held up by the ropes. At least he felt that he was. But Dirrell finished him off in the final round. Dirrell looked great. For most of what I saw, he was fighting as a southpaw. We know that he's a switcher. He's one of the better switchers and the last generation of fighters. He looked good. I don't know what this means. He is 39 years old. At the very least, I'm glad that he's at least still very, very shape and like in great shape and fit. He looked good. The fight was on the preliminary fights that was on YouTube. Okay. But he looked good. When I heard or when I saw that he was fighting, I really didn't know what to think of it, because he hasn't been that active, ever since he lost to Jose Uzcategui, right? And that drama, because the first fight, that was a whole, mess with the father, punching Uzcategui in the face. It was a whole mess. But the rematch, Dirrell was stopped. And Dirrell's always been somewhat chinny, but he's fighting at 175. He looked great. He boxed well. He looked confident. The defense was good. The reflexes was still sharp. The speed was still up there. He moved well. I love the way that he was just pivoting around and stepping around Yunieses Gonzalez and just purely outboxing him, like thoroughly outboxing him. You know what I'm saying? The slipping, the framing, all of that stuff was really, really good. I liked everything that I seen from Dirrell. He showed a lot of like grit, and he fought him. He fought his fight. He fought a little bit of Gonzalez, because Gonzalez is a pretty rugged, rough, come forward, pressure fighter. And Dirrell looked very, very comfortable in there. And I don't know what this means. Again, 175 is super, super full. I'm not sure if he's on a title level or anything like that. But, if he continues to stay active, hopefully he can get on another card soon. And you never know. It's still a decent name for anyone that's on the come up. That's at 175, So Dirrell's still a very good fighter. He's had his rough days. I know he's probably dealt with a lot of stuff outside of the ring, but it was good to see him fight yesterday. I used to be a huge fan of I'm a huge fan of Andre Ward, but let me tell you that at that period when they were both at super middleweight, like those were like my two favorite guys, outside, them and Carl Froch. I love those two, it was neck and neck between the two Dre's, So I'm glad that he still looks sharp and he's still, looking good. If he is going to box, I thought he was going to retire, but it's good that he still looks sharp. Hopefully he can stay active. All right. Yes, Chain, you are a little behind. Yeah, I just spoke to your boss, spoke on your boss, Anuli, and yes, he is in a coma. And that was how I started the video. He is in a coma. And I hope I wish him a speedy recovery. It's about his health. It's not even about his career right now. As long as he just gets better, that's what is that's what's important right now. All right. All right. So let's talk. Let's talk. What else is going on? So Anthony Joshua, real quick, I brought him up the other day, and I'm spoken about Wilder, but I heard him said the other day that AJ is looking to return in March, okay? And he is currently eyeing Dillian White if he is to beat Franklin, all right? Dillian White is going to be fighting, I think, next month. He's going to be fighting Jermaine Franklin. Let me look up the date real quick. Okay, he's going to be fighting towards the end of November against Jermaine Franklin, and Anthony Joshua is looking to have a rematch against Dillian White, possibly. I know all the guys' names has been out there, like Otto Wallin and Philip Hergovich, but AJ is going to chill out until March. All right. The rematch almost happened before. That's the time that I actually went to London because they had secured the arena at Wembley, possibly for that rematch, but Dillian White pulled out because I guess he didn't like the money um, that he was proposed, and that fight never happened, and that is what led to Joshua eventually fighting Madison Square Garden, where he was stopped by Andy Ruiz Jr., which I went to. All right, but yeah, I just want to see AJ back in the ring, man. And I read a lot of comments, I read a lot of tweets, and I see what people say on social media. Look, man, I personally believe that even with the loss to Usyk, the rematch, I just hope he stays with Robert Garcia. Because I saw improvement in that fight. I just think he lost to the better man. But I like what I saw in the fight. I liked him being aggressive. He looks like he's still very slim, though. I seen him do an interview the other day at the or yesterday at the Abu Dhabi card with Bivol and Ramirez. I just hope he stays with Robert Garcia. I don't want him to take that loss as like, I got to find somebody else. I like what he was doing. It just didn't work for him. But in the earlier rounds, I like what he was doing. Is just that Usyk is just, he has the best endurance you can get. He has great endurance, and he was able to fight at a higher level for a longer period of time, and adjust to whatever AJ was doing. I think AJ still boxed well, it just wasn't enough. But I hope he stays with Robert Garcia. I don't know. I know when the fight was over, I know Robert had made some comments, or allegedly he made some comments, and people were talking about like AJ moving on. I don't know what AJ is going to do, but I am glad that he's going to be returning to the ring in March. Okay. I was hoping that he fought Fury. It didn't happen. I wanted him to fight Fury, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. Right. So let's talk about Canelo real quick. And we're going to go straight from Canelo and then go straight into the main topic. Oh, I'm sorry. No, before we talk about Canelo, let's talk about Frank Martin fighting Michelle Rivera. All right. Supposedly, they reached a deal to fight in December 17th. This is an excellent fight. And the main reason why I want to talk is this is not going to be a prediction or breakdown and stuff like that, because I don't really know. I do think, like, from watching both, I've seen both fight. From watching both, I really can't tell. I really can't tell. But the reason why I like this fight is, first of all, I'm surprised that it's even happening, right? Because they're both undefeated. They're both really good fighters. They're contenders now. They're not much in a prospect. They fought solid boxers at lightweight. This is an excellent fight. I'm just surprised that it's happening, because this is what I was saying about the welterweight division the other day. I was basically saying, like, look, these guys that are all mandatories, not for nothing. I like them, and I think it's cool that they work their way up in the rankings and stuff. But I also feel like a lot of these undefeated prospects or top contenders, top 10 fighters that are undefeated and stuff, they should be fighting each other before getting a title shot. It's just, I know that's not the way boxing works. I know the pieces to the chessboard just gets moved around to whatever. And I get that. I understand that, people's, their paths are different. So I get it. But I like this path. I like that you got a division here, right? The lightweight division, the last 4 years has been popping because you got the main folks that we know of, right? You got Tank, you got Loma, you got Ryan Garcia, you got Devin Haney, right? You got Rolly Romero, you had Teofimo Lopez, you had the main guys, Mikey was there once, not too long ago. You had a division, the lightweight division historically, but even still today, has some of the biggest name fighters in the sport. And, when these guys weren't a champion yet, or like none of them fought each other. And I've had an issue with that. right? But now that these guys have done things like Tio, he was able to unify, and Loma was able to unify, and Devin is now undisputed officially. Ryan is going up to 140. I don't know if they're gonna ever make the Tank fight, but I know they were talking about a catchweight with that. But regardless, outside of those names that we know of, dude, we got fighters that are undefeated that's right underneath them, or that's like right on their heels. We talk about these fighters so much, and then you got other guys that's moving up to the division. You got Chris Colbert, who was supposed to fight Frank Martin. I don't know what happened with that, right? I don't know what's going on with Chris Colbert right now, all right? But I didn't think it was a good idea for him to jump right straight into 135 to fight Frank Martin after losing to Garcia. I don't believe he's had a fight. Let me look it up just to be sure, because I don't want to give you wrong information. But I'm not sure if Colbert has been in the ring since his loss to Hector Garcia, and he hasn't. All right. So he's been inactive since February. He's lost to Hector Garcia. He hasn't been back in the ring. And it was a dominating performance. I mean, he didn't just lose. He was dominated. All right. And I feel like the only reason why he didn't get stopped in that fight is he chose to run for a good portion of that fight. With that being said, he was supposed to come up and fight Frank Martin. I don't know what happened, but I didn't think it was a good idea for him to go up and fight Frank Martin. Martin is hungry, and he's having a good run. I don't know what's up with him, but you got Frank. Look, like, let's just talk about the people that's up there. You got William Zepeda, just beat Jojo Diaz last week. The vet, Joseph Diaz Jr., just got totally schooled, pretty much a damn near to a shutout. You might give JoJo one round because he caught him with a good shot. I can't see you giving JoJo more than two. I mean, anything more than two is ridiculous. So you got Jojo Diaz. You got William Zepeda. You got Michelle Rivera, undefeated. Right? You got Frank Martin, undefeated. You got Keyshawn Davis. Everybody's been talking about him and Frank Martin too. Undefeated. Shakur Stevenson is in a division now. Undefeated, 2 division champion, and unified champion. And then you got guys like Jermaine Ortiz, who just lost to Lomachenko in a very, very close fight. Can't take anything away from that guy. He's still going to be an issue, and he might actually be better than some of these other guys. You got a lot of this division is crazy, crazy, crazy stacked right now with young champions and prospects and top contenders, all young, undefeated guys. These guys should be facing each other. I love this news. I was hoping that either Frank or Michelle, because I know Tank, we know what fights we wanted from Tank. We know we wanted the Ryan fight, the Devin fight, the Loma fight, the Tio fight, but we didn't get that. But I was like, you know what? If Tank is not going to fight those guys, give us one of those undefeated, hungry young fighters. I would have been cool with Michelle Rivera. I would have been cool before Frank Martin, to be honest. The thing is with Keyshawn, I know Keyshawn looks extremely good, and he probably might beat some of these guys, if not all. But I still want to see him develop a little bit more. So his name is in a bag, but I don't want him to actually fight. Like, I know there was a lot of talk about Frank Martin. A lot of that talk with Frank Martin has to do with Errol and Bud. We know that. Bud, Keyshawn is with Team Bud, right? And Frank Martin is signed with Spence. So I get it. He's Spence's fighter. I get it. The hype is cool. But I didn't think it was realistic to me. This is a realistic fight. Michelle Rivera, I think he got something like 24 fights or something like that. These guys are contenders, man. You know what I'm saying? They're only They're like a fight. I don't know what this fight is. Uh, I don't know if it's like some kind of eliminator or anything like that. Let me look it up. Let me see if I can find an article on this fight that's gonna say what this fight is all about. It's probably some type of, maybe not a final eliminator, but I'm sure there's probably going to be some sort of eliminator involved with this fight. You know. All right, we'll find out later. But look. Let's get back to the topic. This is a good fight, and this is exactly what we need. We need this. You know, I liked when AJ fought Dillian White. At that time, AJ, we already knew he was going to be a star. Dillian White was undefeated. It was risky, but they fought each other, especially because the dude, Dillian White, beat AJ in the amateurs. I was surprised that we got that fight. But those are the fights we're supposed to get. You know, all this holding out and waiting, like we get in the division, the welterweight division. Boots, Ortiz, Stanionis, Rashidi Ellis. A lot of these fighters undefeated at welterweight, never fought each other. And they get asked all the time, especially Boots and Ortiz. They should be fighting each other. Now, should Ortiz fight Spence or Bud too? Yeah, absolutely. I want to see those fights. Same with Boots. But at the end of the day, let these undefeated fighters get in the ring with another top contender or another top prospect. You know, maybe not a prospect, but once they get to a point where they're a fight or two away from a title match, get them in there. Let them scrap it out for that title shot. You know, I think you should have at least one risk before getting a title shot. You know, because guys are getting title shots and then they're losing it in their very next fight. You know, sometimes some of these fighters, they fight for vacant titles. You know, I know how the rankings go, but sometimes the rankings don't make sense. Let's be real. The rankings don't make sense sometimes. You know, so I like what I'm seeing with this. This fight is an excellent fight. It came out of nowhere. It was a shock for me because I thought that they was going to keep building these two until they got straight to a title fight. I don't know who wins this. You got Frank Martin, who's shorter, but he's the southpaw. Short, you know, he doesn't have a long reach. He is kind of small for the division, but he boxes well. I think he's coming off of like 2 knockouts. You know, I seen him stop Jackson Martinez. I seen him fight the what's the Filipino fighter that he fought? Let me look him up real quick. Duno. He beat Duno. That's who it was. So he beat Duno. He stopped him. I liked how he stopped Martinez. And then same thing with Michelle Rivera. He beat Joseph Adorno, who was able to not stop Jermaine Ortiz, but he was able to hurt him and drop him. Right. So Michelle Rivera, I felt like he did a little bit better. He did better than what Jermaine Ortiz was able to do. We saw what Jermaine Ortiz was able to do against Lomachenko, right? So I'm not saying that the triangle theory works or anything. I'm just comparing who these guys fought. Michelle Rivera got solid fighters on his resume, you know, not the top tier dudes, but solid wins. Same with Frank Martin. Frank is coming off two knockout wins. I love this fight. You know, Frank is going to have to deal with that height and reach of Michelle Rivera, who knows how to use range, you know what I'm saying, has a very quick jab and knows how to stay outside on the outside, you know, but has no fear. He is willing to mix it up. So does Frank. Frank likes to get busy on the inside. I love watching these two. I love Frank Martin, man. You know, I don't even like the fact that I like the Keyshawn Davis hype, but I don't like the bias with it. Like, I think Frank Martin is legit, you know? I like him. You know, I get the Spence and Bud bias stuff, but I like Frank Martin. I like what he's doing. And I can't wait to see him against Michelle Rivera. I don't know. I'm not calling it now. I'm not even giving you I'm leaning towards it. I'm not even leaning towards no one. I'm definitely got to do I can't even do it off the top right now because I actually got to really do film study for that fight. I love that matchup though. All right. Let me see what you guys are saying. Sonny says Rivera was in a fight on Wild Undercard. He is built for 10 rounds. Yeah, he's been going to 10 rounds. I just looked it up. He fought. He went the distance in his last 3, but they were good opponents. You know, they were good fighters. They were fighters that I've seen fight against top tier fighters or been in there. I think, well, Jerry Perez, I didn't know about him. I don't know. I'm not, I wasn't too familiar with him. I know Frank Martin. Yeah, I see here that Frank Martin stopped him. All right. Michelle Rivera went to distance with him. But Frank has been stopping guys. You know, Frank is a little bit more aggressive. All right. But what I will say is that I like Rivera's chin a little bit because he fought Joseph Adorno, who is a puncher, who was able to stop, or I mean, drop Jermaine Ortiz. I keep saying stop. Damn. He was able to drop and hurt Jermaine Ortiz. And Michelle was taking some bombs, and he got rocked a few times, but he showed a good chin so far. All right, but he could definitely go to 12. He's a very, very good boxer. Definitely got skills, a lot of talent there. I can't wait for that fight. All right. What's up, Aquaya? How you doing? I ain't see you in here for a minute. It's been a minute, but what's up with you? All right, who else is Ralph says he got Rivera. Sonny says he got Michelle Rivera as well. Star Fox says, what's up, Wave? What's up with you, Star Fox? I hope everything is good. Rocket Adretti says, these guys ruined the welterweight and middleweight divisions. Yeah. Well, I mean, don't even get me started with the middleweight divisions because it's absolutely nothing. That is the worst division right now in all boxing, in my opinion. The worst. You know, that division in like 126 when it comes to like fighting guys fighting each other. 160 is just a disaster. You got a lot of talent there and a bunch of guys that just don't want to fight each other. You know what I'm saying? Malik says 135 is stacked like a triple whopper. Yeah, absolutely. Ralph says, I'm hearing Ortiz will fight Stan Jonas in March. We're hearing a lot. You know, we're hearing a lot about Thurman and all of that. You know what I'm saying? But yeah. So anyway, Quaver says, I was overseas in Dubai last month and half glad to be back. Yeah. All right. So look, let's go to the next. Let's talk to the main topic at hand. So Canelo is going to be returning. We're going to talk about Canelo, and then we're going to drift off into Bivol, Beterbiev, and Yard, right? So Canelo is looking. Eddie Hearn said Canelo will be returning in May. All right. So I know he had the surgery, but they're looking to get him back in the ring by May. All right. I know originally they said that he was going to take the majority of the year off and then come back in September, but they're looking for May. I did read up on it. I know that they said that he's looking to start like throwing punches and stuff again, not too long from now. But yeah, I mean, that's good news. I just want to know how that is going to work as far as him being undisputed, mandatory obligations. How is that going to work? You know what I'm saying? It's a lot of obligations. If he's planning on holding on to those titles, there's going to be a lot of obligations. You know, obviously you got Dave Morrell Jr., who is the WBA world champion. So he won't be the mandatory right away, but at some point he will, right? We also got Plant and Benavidez, which was just announced. I'm sure the winner of that is going to be a mandatory pretty soon too. All right. So there's a lot of stuff going on with the division. But with that being said, I do not plan on Canelo like coming straight back, even though it's going to be Cinco de Mayo. I don't think that Canelo is going to be coming straight out the gate fighting like the top tier guy. I think he's going to fight a respectable opponent coming back from surgery, working on that hand and making sure he's good, or his wrist or whatever part that was injured. I'm not expecting nothing crazy I mean, he's had one hell of a run the last couple years. You know, Avni Yildirim was one of those fights that none of us asked for. But outside of that, He had a great, like, his run as far as his resume, you know, and that's why a lot of people still argue that he's just pound for pound, because he fights the best quality fighters consistently. So I got to give him that, regardless of how you feel about his talent, you know, or judges or whatever like that. Canelo is good when it comes to fighting real talent, you know, foreign champions, all that stuff, you know. Uh Elney says maybe John Ryder. Well, John Ryder is gonna be facing and that's another one, because that fight that's for a WBO title eliminator, and that is against the guy that Andre was supposed to fight, Zach Parker. The winner of that is going to be a mandatory. So again, we got we got Morrell Jr., winner of Ryder and Parker, and we also got the winner of Plant and Benavides. So there's a lot of responsibilities if Canelo plans to hold all those titles. Just like I said with Spence, I don't expect Canelo to hold all those titles. You know, I don't think Spence is going to hold all the titles neither. You know, I think if you becoming undisputed in a four belt division per division era, there's no way that you're going to hold on to all of the belts. You know, you might defend the titles, but defending all four is going to be very difficult with the amount of mandatories you have, you know, unless you really, really plan on staying at the division. You know what I'm saying? And Canelo, he's going to give us those kind of fights. He's going to defend some of his titles, but he's also going to take fights that he want to take. He's going to take fights that are going to be challenging. He's going to take fights that he's going to want to tune up. I don't think anybody in this sport is going to be able to have more than 2 defenses in a 4-belt era. You know, when it comes to being undisputed. I mean, look what happened with Josh Taylor. Just to take this rematch, he had to give up 3 of his 4 belts. You know, making undisputed is great. Defending it and keeping it for long in today's sport, where most fighters are inactive and you have more belts to defend, I just don't believe it can be done. All right. But since we're speaking on Canelo, let's drift right over to Bivol, because they're still talking rematch. They're talked rematch. You know, Eddie wants to make it. They've even talked about Bivol moving down to 168. Listen, I'm sure they're going to throw the bag at Bivol. Bivol had said in a recent interview that he's more focused on legacy, which means like, yo, I want the money, but I'm focused on legacy. And when it comes to legacy right now, his main priority is to become undisputed and fighting Artur Beterbiev, who is holding the other 3 titles at light heavy, right? Which I agree with. You know, he fought Canelo. He beat Canelo. He was able to beat Canelo and then go on to beat Zerto even better. You know, at this point, we already know that he's legit. You know, he's more than proven at this point. There's no fluke there with this guy. Bivol is the goods. So at the end of the day, I like him chasing legacy, you know? And you won the fight. You're the champion at 175. You know, why do you have to go back down to 168 in a division that you never fought, at a weight that you never fought? Why give away the advantage you have? You know, I get it for money purposes. At this point, it would be for money, but you already beat him. You know, you already beat him. People would say size this and size that. Listen, you beat him. You box well doing it. You know what I'm saying? It's not like you just bullied him and you was a weight bully. We seen guys just be too big for certain fighters. You know, not saying that size didn't play a part in it, but Bivol is literally like the smallest super middleweight out there. Or I'm sorry, the smallest light heavyweight out there. Literally. He is the smallest one. And Canelo is not a big super middleweight on top of that. So why it just doesn't like I'm not interested in a rematch. You know, some fans might want to see a rematch because of the fact that Canelo lost. But if I were Bivol, I would just go and just continue your path to greatness. You know, you beat Canelo already. And I think for Canelo too, like, dude, you went for it. All right. You went for it and you lost. It's okay. You know, it's all right. Like, there's still many great things you can do, you know? So we'll see. But let's move on. Let's talk about Beterbiev. I think a lot of the talk right now on social media is who's better between Bivol and Beterbiev. Now, I've been back and forth. I told y'all, usually when one of them fights, I've gone back and forth. I could say from the very beginning, though, I would probably say that I was leaning a little towards Bivol in the beginning, right? Because I had I just loved his boxing ability, you know, from jump. And I know that guys got power, and I know certain fighters are pressure fighters, but I noticed Bivol's boxing ability to be, you know, really superior when I first started watching him. But then Beterbiev had stopped like Volsdik, and I think that was the first fight where I said, "Man, I don't really know. You know, I just don't really know anymore because Beterbiev actually looks better when he steps up, but so does Bivol as well. You know, like you know how Bivol didn't look all that great against Craig Richards, you know, and I think Craig Richards actually just did a good job boxing him and controlling distance using his jab. Um, I think Bivol struggled a little bit in that fight because of the styles. All right, but I mean, look, man, Bivol is not the KO artist that Beterbiev is. You know, but I've been back and forth. Beterbiev is so strong, man. It's very, very hard to call it, you know. Beterbiev has beaten guys like Marcus Brown, destroyed Joe Smith Jr. in his very last fight. I mean, he came out the gate. Remember, he fought Terror's Cloud like in his seventh fight. Uh, he fought Gabriel Campbell early. He was dropped by Jeff Page and Callum Johnson, I remember. All right. And I think that does count. That does stand for something because Bivol has never been dropped. All right. All right. But he's had some good fights. He fought Kalajic. He beat him, fought Marcus Brown, and he stopped Joe Smith Jr. in his last fight. I was trying to figure out where I would go and where would I lean if they were to fight when they did fight. And I'm gonna say as of today, and I've changed over the years, but I think after Bivol's most recent opponents in this year, I would have to go with Bivol. You know, I'm just gonna always lean a little bit better towards the boxer, the better boxer of the two, in my opinion. I think Beterbiev is a very good boxer, but defensively he's not. He's just average when it comes to his defense. His strength, his power. He knows the sport, you know. He knows how to place those punches. All right. He knows how to counter and time you. When I look at the Joe Smith Jr. fight, and I went to that fight, and I know that it was quick. I know it was crazy how he stopped him and dominated him. But if you go back and watch the fight is on YouTube. Search for it. Joe actually, I know we were hyped for it because Joe is one of the biggest punchers. Beterbiev was one of the biggest punchers or is one of the biggest punchers. But Joe has never really been that good of a technical boxer. And I feel like Joe just did everything wrong in that fight. Joe fought the way that Joe normally fights. But there's a reason why Joe has losses to guys like a Sullivan Barrera. And I'm not trying to diss Barrera, but Joe is not that good from a technical ability. I think what keeps him in these fights where they're very competitive is the power that he has. But Bivol fully exposed him. And I actually believe that Bivol was just, it was just the worst kind of matchup. You know, maybe not going into the fight because we wanted to see two dudes with power slugging it out. We knew that Joe could have the power to hurt Beterbiev because we seen him hurt by Callum Johnson. We seen him drop by Jeff Page Jr. But Joe just didn't. I was just watching it earlier this afternoon, and Joe did everything wrong in that fight. I mean, he looked so clumsy in that fight, you know. Beterbiev is just way better from a technical standpoint, from fundamentals, way better than Joe Smith Jr. You know, and I know that Bivol fought Joe and didn't stop him or anything, and I know that Joe caught him with a few good shots. But that's not what Bivol is about. He's just not a guy that's just stopping everybody left and right. That's not what he does. But I do believe that his punching power is real. I do believe that he has at least a decent enough punch to at least keep Beterbiev honest, you know, where he just doesn't rush him like he's done with other fighters. Not only that, but I am an Anthony Yard fan, but don't get it twisted. This is not coming out of bias or anything like that. All right. I know that he's lost to Lyndon Arthur. I know that he lost to Kovalev. I think that Anthony Yard is going to bring more than what we got from Marcus Brown and Joe Smith Jr. All right. I think the problem with Marcus Brown is that he was just too defensive and he just didn't really want to engage like that, you know. I think the problem with Joe Smith Jr. is that he was too offensive and not defensive at all, right? And Joe Smith in that fight just really didn't really understand range, didn't use the range well, just, you know, threw his jabs from, it was too close and it was just too easy to counter with the overhand rights. He was just getting clubbed around. I believe that Anthony Yard has his flaws, okay? We seen him get dominated, not dominated, but we seen him lose to Kovalev with the jab. I think he's gained some experience since then. We seen him get gun shy because he didn't want to burn himself out against Lyndon Arthur, and he took too long to get it going. But he got it going early in the rematch. I think with Yard, I think the one biggest flaw with him out of all of the flaws that we might see in the ring, lack of experience. He was fighting guys that just wasn't good and stopping them continuously. And he went straight to Kovalev, you know. And what I said earlier in this video when I was talking about these lightweights, Yard is a prime example of what I mean when I say I don't like how a lot of these fighters are going straight up to the rankings fighting journeyman and then going straight to a title shot. You know, I like Frank Martin against Michelle Rivera because these guys should be at least facing this kind of fight to improve on their skills. So when they get to a title fight, they can be a little bit more experienced and stuff. You know, they had a tough fight. Like for example, Jermaine Ortiz, he had that tough fight with Joseph Adorno, you know, where he was dropped, you know, where he struggled. He went in life and death with this guy. Those are the kind of fights you need. So when you go and fight a championship level fighter or a former champ, you can have a little bit more experience. So Yard didn't have that going into the fight with Kovalev or even going into the fight with Arthur because he was just too gun shy, concerned about him gassing out. But in the rematch, he went straight at him. He has to learn exactly how to fight each type of fight. And I think by the time he fights Arthur Beterbiev, no, I'm not saying that I think he wins the fight. But what I'm saying is it's going to be a more competitive matchup. You know, because you're going to have two fighters that's going to be looking to be the general, because Anthony Yard definitely likes coming forward. Beterbiev, we already know how he gets down, you know. It's going to be a good fight. I think Yard brings way better defense than Joe Smith Jr. Yard is not a great defender, all right, but he does have good slickness. He does, slip and roll punches pretty well, you know. And he is a good counter puncher. He does have a hand speed advantage, and he does have power. We've seen Beterbiev get dropped. I think Yard has the power to at least, shake Beterbiev up. Maybe not. I don't know if he would stop him, but I think he has enough power to at least shake him up. Do not sleep on Anthony Yard for this fight. That's all I'm gotta say. Even if you're picking Beterbiev, this is a better fight than what Marcus Brown bought, what Joe Smith Jr. bought. Marcus Brown just could not engage because he is too defensive, and he doesn't have a great chin. All right. So I love the way this is going. I'm hoping that if they can find a way to make the undisputed fight after Yard and Beterbiev, because Beterbiev has 3 titles. You got Callum Smith out there that I think he is a manager. He just fought in some sort of eliminator. I don't know if it was a final one or not, but like I said before, most of these guys should be fighting each other before getting into title shot. You got, I wish Yard and Buatsi fought each other. I wish Zerto and Callum Smith fought each other. I wish we got those kind of fights. I know John Pascal is somewhere out there in the rankings still, but what I'm just trying to say is we need to get this fight going. Whoever wins this fight in the next coming months, Yard and Beterbiev, hopefully they can fight Bivol. Hopefully they can work something out. Tom Rank can connect with Matchroom, and we could get this going, because these guys been at the top for way too long. Way too long. So yeah. Don't sleep on Yard. Don't sleep on Yard. And when it comes to Beterbiev and Bivol, I think by the time they fight, I'm leaning towards Bivol. You got to remember, Beterbiev, as good as he looks, I think the age will be a factor. And I think that Bivol's defense is gonna be the key thing that keeps him in the fight. I know Beterbiev is strong, but Beterbiev is not going to be able to walk through Bivol like he is with the other fighters, So you just got to wait and see. All right, let me read some of the comments. Sly said, looks like, yes, they put, if you are late, I addressed this in the very beginning of my video. Aidos, your boss Anuli is in a coma. Okay, I spoke on this in the very beginning of the video. Again, like I said, I don't want to go into the argument of whether the fight should have been stopped earlier or not, because this is going to be always an issue, right? When it comes to this, he was taking a lot of punishment and he was pretty beat up way before the final round. All right. But, I'm sure he would have wanted to continue. I'm sure that, his corner wanted him to continue, and, when it comes to the ref or the doctors, listen, it's so weird. Boxing is so funny. It's so corrupt. How many times have we seen doctors just so eager to stop a fight, coming up, checking the fighter in the corner where the fighter is just clearly fine, just looking efficient to stop a fight. Where you got fights like this where a fighter is getting punished. Yes, Aidos was still fighting, but I don't want to get into all of that who's at fault stuff. I just hope that he fully recovers. I'm not even worried. Like I said earlier, I'm not concerned about his boxing career right now. I'm more concerned about his life and his well-being. And, boxing, listen, if he can ever box again, that's cool. But let's just stick to him being okay. And let's stick to Morrell Jr. moving on from this without being mentally damaged and being gun shy in his future fights because of what happened here. You know, we don't want that to happen either because he's so young and talented. This can mentally take a piece of out of him, you know, moving forward to the next fight in fear of hurting the next opponent, you know. Um, it's especially if something tragic happens to Idols. All right. So that's how, you know, I started the video talking about that. All right. MAW says likely Canelo versus Ryder Parker winner in May. No, I actually think that's a great idea because I said that Canelo is gonna. I don't believe it'll be top tier, but I think it'll be a solid opponent coming off of an injury. All right. It could be those guys. I expected to be Ryder or Parker before I expect a Bivol rematch or a Plant Benavides winner. You know, I expected to be Ryder and Parker too. So I'm glad you brought that up because that's a good point. Oh, or a Morrell Jr. because Morrell Jr. is officially a WBA world title, not super world title holder. You know, Bodymore said they reported maybe Eubank. I didn't even read that, but I'm sure Eubank would love to take that fight. You know, I think Eubank is taking his Liam Smith fight, but Eubank is right around the corner from a big fight. There's no way he's not going to get a big fight in 2023 with all the promotion he did in his last fight. You know, all right. Guys are leaving a lot of comments. Aaron rubbing his hands like a Birdman for Bivol. Yeah, I hope so. Hope so. They should make the fight. That's a great fight. Yeah, Bodymore said, Dan, the guy Morrell fought. I said I thought it should have been stopped 2 rounds before. Yeah, again, Aidos was taking punishment for a while. His face looked pretty bad. And you know, the moment that Morrell like picked him up and held him and carried him over to a stool, he didn't look good, you know. Again, we talked about this plenty of times. You know, some of the fighters appear to take less punishment and they don't end up ever, you know, walking back into the ring ever again, or some of them die, you know. Just gotta be careful. Yeah, I don't like the Kell Brook Eubank talk, to be honest. I never wanted that. I never wanted Eubank against Connor neither, but you know, they did great promotion, great promo for that fight. So I was a little intrigued by it by that time that they almost made it happen. All right. Ralph says Bivol is going to take Arthur to school. Yeah, I'm leaning towards Bivol at this point, you know. But I still think Arthur beats everyone else for now. But I just would not sleep on. People are sleeping on Yard big time. I just wouldn't sleep on him. All right. We'll talk more about that because I will do a breakdown soon. I don't even know if they officially announced the actual date yet, but I'll definitely do a breakdown for that fight at some point because I like that fight a lot. And I am unsure about the winner. I think Yard, I wouldn't be, I mean, Beterbiev would definitely be the favorite, but I wouldn't sleep on Yard. All right. All right, man. Look, it's getting late. I'm getting tired. I gotta work in the morning, man. I'm gonna get on out of here. I do have some breakdowns that I'm gonna get straight to this week. So be on the lookout for that. Again, if you are new here, please subscribe to the channel. If you haven't already, let's get those thumbs up, please. Smash that like button for me if you can. Again, follow me on Twitter, Instagram. You know, and thank you for all the people that's been sending me donations on the Cash App and the Venmo, and also for the thank you, because you can actually donate underneath the video itself now, even when I'm not on live. The thank you donations, I appreciate those as well. And again, please hit that like button on your way out. And I'm gonna get on out of here. I'm getting tired. I'm actually starting to like doze off a little bit. All right, y'all have a good night. Have a great week. And we have some fights this weekend. Nothing major. All right, but I'll let you know if I jump on. Maybe I'll jump on if nothing going down. No big fights this weekend, but there are a couple cards going down this weekend. All right. Later. Peace.